My wife, who is unfaithful, panicked and started begging for forgiveness, but she will have to face the consequences she deserves. I found out about my future ex-wife's affair about 7 months ago. I went through all the emotional pain, denial, suffering, and attempts to win her attention. For a long time, I was in deep depression. I never confronted her directly, but she must have known I figured it out. I suppose she just didn't care. About 2 to 3 months ago, I simply got fed up with her and our marriage. I stopped caring completely. I disconnected entirely from our relationship and started preparing for divorce and the new life that awaited me. I avoided my wife as much as possible, tried not to be at home when she was there, and didn't engage in conversations. I would only answer her questions with, "Yes, no, maybe," or, "I don't know." I even left divorce attorney bills in visible places. She must have understood that I had checked out and was preparing for divorce. Even the kids asked me about it. They could see what was going on. I even gave that classic speech. "We both love you. It's not your fault. Sometimes adults just can't stay together." My wife was in the room and must have heard me talking to the kids. She said nothing, didn't object, and I took her silence as agreement. A few days ago, I met a girl I knew back in school before I met my wife. There was always some chemistry and attraction between us. We always flirted and touched lightly but never crossed any lines. Let's call her Monica, because she reminds me of Monica Bellucci. Monica and her family moved away before I had the courage to act on my feelings. I regretted it for a long time. Back then, I was young, shy, and foolish. I hadn't thought about Monica in years and hadn't seen her in forever, but as soon as we met again, the tension between us was palpable, stronger than before. Our communication was easy and effortless. She invited me on a date herself. I explained my situation with my wife and said I wanted to be officially divorced before starting to date anyone. I wasn't planning to be unfaithful. Monica respected that, gave me her number, and told me to call her once I'd sorted everything out. She said she'd never been married and was really interested in getting to know me better again. I was equally intrigued. That meeting inspired me to finally talk to my wife and officially start the divorce process and property division. I was genuinely happy when I came home to wait for my wife. I was literally smiling like a madman. When she arrived, I asked her to sit down and said we needed to talk. I told her that I had known about her affair for a long time, that I assumed she knew I knew, especially considering I had disconnected from our relationship for the past 3 months, and that it seemed not to bother her. I explained that I wanted to move on with my life, start dating someone else, and concluded by saying that it was time for us to divorce. Her reaction was nothing like I expected. She started crying, not just crying but making a desperate, soul-wrenching sound. I had never heard anything like it. She mumbled excuses, begged for a second chance, and claimed the affair meant nothing to her. She suggested we could fix everything through family therapy and so on. I was somewhat stunned. If family was so important to her, why did she have the affair in the first place? She must have understood it would destroy our relationship. Was she really that foolish? I told her that if she truly believed in saving our family and marriage, the time for that was 7 months ago, before she started cheating. Now it's too late. Everything is broken, and it can't be fixed. I didn't think there were any problems in our marriage. She never talked to me about it, and I can't read minds. Whatever it was, I never had a chance to fix it. By starting the affair, she clearly thought something was wrong or missing, something so serious that it couldn't be resolved by simply talking to me. It had to be something so terrible that she was willing to let our children grow up in a broken family. If not, why did she do it? I calmly and clearly explained to her that there is no way to undo her moment with that guy, nor can she erase the pain and suffering she caused me. This pain pushed me to a state of indifference. To be precise, I don't hate her. I just maintain politeness for the sake of co-parenting our children in the future. I told her I don't believe she ever truly cared about me. Someone who cares, even a little, wouldn't cause this kind of pain. They wouldn't betray someone as she did. Her words about loving me mean nothing now, and don't deserve any trust because her actions prove otherwise. At that point, she completely lost her ability to speak coherently. I couldn't understand a word she was trying to say. In the end, I had to call her sister because, frankly, I wasn't going to take care of her. Her sister arrived, and after I explained what was happening, she took her away. I felt an immense sense of relief when they left, as if I could breathe properly for the first time in 7 months. I don't even know why I'm writing all this. She should have known this was coming. Perhaps she even wanted it. She couldn't possibly be so foolish as to think that such behavior and decisions would lead to anything but divorce and a broken family. She's beautiful and intelligent, and our marriage was wonderful until she started the affair. I've come to terms with the fact that life changes, and I've already moved past it. Now she's pretending to love me, to want us to stay together and keep our family intact. What could her motivation possibly be at this point for creating all this drama? What does she hope to gain from it? Does she genuinely think we might try to fix things? Could that even be possible? There must be some plan behind her actions, but I can't figure it out. I have substantial proof of her affair, and in my country, I live in Europe, this likely means she's not entitled to alimony. Could that be it? Is she afraid I'll tell everyone about her actions? Perhaps she's trying to elicit pity from me, so I never reveal what she did. Her lover is married. Maybe she's afraid I'll tell his wife. I just can't wrap my head around all of this. In any case, I just needed to get this off my chest. I hoped that by putting my thoughts into writing, everything would become clearer, but it hasn't. I'm just as confused as I was at the start of this monologue. Update: my unfaithful wife is driving me crazy. First of all, thank you all for your support. It has been incredible. I haven't had the chance to respond to everyone, but I've tried to read all the messages. I wrote my first post 3 days after talking to my wife, and I had barely slept. Honestly, I passed out right at my computer while reading the messages. When I woke up the next day, there was a curious keyboard imprint on my face, but my thoughts were much clearer. I decided to make lists of pros and cons for key issues. I hung several sheets of paper on the wall, each with a title. Our children, how to act around my wife, my marriage, Monica, questions for my wife, and so on. The final document is too large to describe fully here, so I'll touch on the main points. My goal was to identify the core principles that matter most to me and what I should focus on. Then, I went through each point and evaluated whether I could achieve meaningful results and what would constitute such results in each case. Children. They are my top priority. I will increase my efforts to help them cope. More individual and family therapy sessions are on the way. I will plan trips, spend more time with them, and create new memories. I'll shower them with love and support. I'll talk to their teachers, coaches, and anyone else who can help them. I want their support to be immediate and widespread. I've also taken an STD test and arranged a DNA test for the kids. Just the thought that they might not be mine is unsettling, but I have to do this for their sake. If they're not mine, there might be medical histories they need to be aware of. What if, when they grow up, they want to find their biological father? How will they look at me if I don't take action now? I've decided not to dwell on this until I get a definitive answer. After speaking privately with their therapist, we openly and calmly discussed the situation with the children. We explained everything and allowed them to ask any questions they wanted. I repeated, over and over, that they can come to me with any problem. I am their father. I love them more than anything in the world, and I will always, always be there for them, no matter what. Regarding my marriage, I concluded that I will never be able to trust my wife again. Without trust, a relationship cannot exist. I've also realized that I no longer love my wife, not the person she has become. My love for her was once a huge part of who I was, but her affair destroyed it entirely. It changed the way I see her. Perhaps I could learn to love her again, But for that to happen, I would have to want it, and honestly, I don't. It's better to end this and move on with my life. I don't want this marriage anymore, and I don't want this relationship. The part of me that once loved her, that felt endless joy and happiness when thinking of her, is now filled with fear and painful memories. In fact, any thought of connecting with her now causes me serious discomfort. Divorce is inevitable, and I want to finalize it as soon as possible. As for Monica, I've spoken to her a lot. I had some doubts based on the comments people shared. Perhaps jumping into a new relationship immediately isn't the best idea. I also didn't want to drag her into this chaos because, let's face it, my life is a complete mess right now. She disagreed with me, saying life is inherently messy and asking why we shouldn't see how we handle it together. During our conversations, I learned why she never married. It turns out she was engaged, but her fiancé died in a workplace accident nearly 5 years ago. It was a huge blow for her. Although she went on a few dates afterward, she couldn't form a deep connection with anyone. From her perspective, life is short, and you have to take risks when you get a real chance. I explained to her that I don't want to start anything new until I'm officially divorced. I don't want to cheat, even technically. She agreed and respected that. We also discussed how it might look to others if we suddenly started openly dating. It could easily appear as though Monica was the one who broke up a happy marriage. I don't want that. She agreed, and we decided to wait for a while after the official divorce before starting anything. I am incredibly drawn to Monica. Even that phone conversation felt close to emotional infidelity. That's why I decided not to contact her again until the divorce is finalized. We agreed that I would handle my business first, reach out to her when I'm ready, and then we would decide what to do next. When it came to meeting with my wife, I wrote down several principles I wanted to follow during our conversation. I promised myself to try my best to be the person I was before this nightmare began. I decided that I needed to stay calm, make every effort not to be cruel, and remember that the goal of this conversation was to move forward, to co-parent our children as best as possible. Nevertheless, I prepared a list of questions to try to understand what she was thinking when she started the affair, and what she thinks about the future. I wasn't going to be hypocritical, or give her false hope of reconciliation for the sake of the prenuptial agreement, or any advantage in the divorce process. I decided to act as fairly as possible. We will split all assets equally, and we will share custody 50-50. Despite her terrible behavior, I will not use it as a model to emulate. I will act in a way I can be proud of today, tomorrow, and 20 years from now. I hate her for what she did to me, to us, and to our children, but I cherish the memories of the good times we once had. I love our children, whom we created and raised together. I will try to remember her in that light rather than in the shadow of her betrayal. I cannot carry hatred in my heart, so at some point, I'll have to forgive her to move on. Before her affair, I think we had a truly good marriage. We made love almost every day, spent quality time together, and rarely argued. We willingly sacrificed a lot for each other. I was very open with her until I discovered her infidelity, believing she was just as open with me. But her actions now show otherwise. On Saturday, I went to see her. Her sister had warned me that she wasn't doing well, and she wasn't wrong. My wife looked awful, red, swollen eyes, a puffy face, disheveled hair. She seemed smaller, as though she had shrunk into herself. I doubted she had eaten or slept all week. We all sat down, and she was almost uncontrollably emotional. I felt an odd sense of calm. I sympathized with her obvious pain, but not as a loving husband, more as someone watching an actor in a powerful film. It's hard to explain, but it confirmed that I probably no longer love her. I simply sat and waited for her to gather herself to start talking. She tried several times, but kept breaking down in tears. It was clear that this wasn't an act. I had seen her cry before, but never like this. When she finally began to speak, it was as if the words were being torn from her. She apologized almost every other word. Surprisingly, she didn't try to justify her actions or shift the blame onto me. Her sister was also crying and occasionally scolding her. It became clear that her sister had warned her this would happen. Apparently, she had lost her fiancé to infidelity a year ago, something I hadn't known. My wife's affair seems to have been a combination of infatuation and a midlife crisis. She admitted she got swept up in the feelings for this man and couldn't stop herself. She claimed she had been happy in our marriage, but convinced herself she deserved the excitement of this fling. She believed that I would somehow support her if I knew how happy she felt in that moment. She assumed the affair would pass, and we returned to being a happy family. She had no idea I'd found out until I began withdrawing. She told me she ended things with her lover about a month and a half ago because the euphoria had faded. She handed me her phone for inspection, and when I unlocked it, I found messages confirming that timeline. By the time I confronted her, she had convinced herself we could fix things and make our marriage stronger than before. But when I looked her in the eyes during our conversation, she realized it was over. The reality hit her like a ton of bricks. I asked her what made her think she had the right to do this to us and to our children. In the end, it was pure selfishness on her part. As many of you pointed out, I realized I would never get the answers I sought because they don't exist. There's no acceptable reason for infidelity, so I will never receive a satisfying explanation. However, I did find a strange sense of closure. I was able to explain to her just how much she had hurt me and caused incredible pain. I made her acknowledge her responsibility for the destruction of our marriage and the impact on our children, who will now grow up in a broken family. This gave me a peculiar sense of peace. She had read everything she could find about rebuilding a marriage after infidelity, and even prepared a signed document for me as a gesture. I didn't read it. I just handed it to my lawyer. She repeatedly begged for a second chance, saying she was willing to do anything. I told her I didn't believe her. In truth, I don't trust a single word she says anymore. She asked what she could do to fix things. I told her that she had broken everything, and if she didn't know how to fix it, how could she expect me to provide the answer? I asked what she would have done if the roles were reversed. After a long pause, she admitted she probably wouldn't be able to forgive me either. I told her I had taken an STD test and planned to do a DNA test for the children. When she heard that, she broke down completely, crying for 20 minutes. She swore this was the only time she had cheated or done anything like this. But after further discussion, she acknowledged that I had no reason to believe her, and admitted that if she were in my shoes, she wouldn't either. I asked if her lover's wife knew about the affair. She said no, but agreed that the woman deserved to know the truth. I asked who should tell her or me. She asked if I would consider reconciliation or therapy if she told the wife herself. I said no, but added that it might restore a small amount of my respect for her. She promised to confess to the wife and to inform everyone, including HR at her workplace. She swore she would never be with anyone else again and vowed to spend the rest of her life trying to win me back, no matter how long it took. I didn't believe her, but remained silent. Everything devolved into a meaningless repetition of the same phrases. She even proposed an open, one-sided marriage, granting me full access to all her communication. I told her that I had spoken to Monica and was waiting because I didn't want to cheat. Besides, I didn't want to be in an open relationship. It would hurt her, and I don't want to cause pain to others as she did to me. I also added that I didn't want to be her warden, constantly monitoring and suspecting her. That's not healthy for a relationship. I told her I'm not interested in intimacy without a deep emotional connection. Physical intimacy for the sake of mechanical gratification has no value to me. If it's just about physical satisfaction, I can manage that on my own. I don't need a partner for that. By this point, we were all exhausted. Our conversation had lasted more than 5 hours, during which my wife cried almost continuously, ranging from mild tears to full-blown hysterics. There was nothing more to say. I made it very clear to her that the love I once felt for her was gone. I no longer recognized the person she had become. Our family was destroyed by her actions, and I will see the divorce through to the end. I told her she couldn't undo what she had done. The only way to avoid this outcome was to not have started the affair 7 months ago. I don't want to save our marriage, I don't want her, and I don't want any more pain. I suggested we stop communicating for a while to create some distance and perspective. I informed her that I had already filed for divorce and that my decision was final. While I was open to family therapy for co-parenting, I didn't even want to see her or talk to her beyond that. Hearing this was incredibly painful for her. She cried uncontrollably, repeatedly begging, "No, no, no, please no." When I got up to leave, she suddenly had a severe nosebleed. She reached out to me but then fainted. I caught her before she hit the floor and, along with her sister, took her to the hospital. I stayed there until I was assured she would be okay. Yesterday evening and today, my wife told everyone what she had done. Her lover's wife called me this morning to confirm that my wife had told her the truth. I sent her copies of some evidence I had, and she has since kicked her husband out of the house. She wants to meet with me to see the rest of the evidence. She had suspected something for a long time, but didn't have concrete proof. I suggested we meet for dinner tomorrow. She wanted to talk over the phone, but I'm not sure I can handle that right now. To be honest, I feel like a piece of trash. I can't sleep, and cracks are starting to appear in my resolve. I know I need to stay strong, but this is incredibly hard. Why do I feel guilty? Why do I feel responsible for trying to fix this? We can deceive ourselves for a while, but it's unlikely to work long term. Some of her friends and relatives have been calling me, cursing me, and insisting that I should give her a second chance. But one question keeps running through my mind. Why prolong the pain? Isn't it better to end this now, so we can begin healing and building new lives? That's it. Sadly, there's nothing dramatic, no revenge, no firm resolve, and no peace, just more and more pain. My mind feels like it's in a dark basement. Honestly, I don't know what to do anymore. So, this is where the story ends. I'd like to ask for your thoughts in the comments. What would you do in this situation? I think it's not so simple because my wife truly wants to save the marriage and is willing to sacrifice a lot for it. But then, there's Monica. How can anyone resist that? Well, make sure to share your opinion about this story in the comments. Watch our other videos.